Two ways to live. There are two ways in which you can live your life. You can either live from the heart or in fear. Let's first explore the fear factor. I have come to understand that there are two forms of fear. The first fear is one's natural instinct to protect oneself from harm or even death. This was established when we were first created, the energy of which is based in the root chakra. The second form of fear is the unnatural fear that has been created by the ego, which has corrupted the minds and emotions of almost the entire human race. The ego center of activity emanates from the logical left hemisphere of the brain. Today, everyone on the planet is being influenced and affected in some form or other by this second form of fear, the ego-created fear. The ego creates fear in order to control you. The more control it has over your mental and emotional states of being, the greater the fear. The greater the fear, the more dominant the ego becomes. Fear is the ego's food, without which it would not survive, which is why it has a vested interest in keeping you in fear. There are many forms of fear that are partly hidden or disguised, such as stress. For example, whenever you are stressed by something, there is a worry, and worry can take over your emotions and mental abilities to function in a calm, collective manner. Here are some other worrisome fear factors. There is a fear that you won't have enough time to finish a project. There is a fear that you won't be fast enough and will end up being last. There is a fear that you will not pass the test or exam. There is a fear that you will not be able to pay the bills. Worry is fear-based, so what is the basis of fear? The ego deceives the mind and emotions by instilling the consciousness with thoughts of not trusting yourself, such as the intuitive thought or feeling. Without trusting yourself, you cannot trust others, which is where the fear factor comes in to fill that vacuum. But why not trust? The ego has conditioned the logic to believe that making mistakes or getting things wrong is an imperfection, and as such deems itself to be imperfect. Yes, the ego is good at beating itself up, because this confirms to itself that it is still active. The ego can also like it when something is achieved on time, as in holding the presence of satisfaction, which usually contains the energy of "look at me, see how good I am approach, which is the opposite of being humble. Although you are already a being of light, over many centuries the ego has trained and conditioned the logical mind to believe that it is imperfect. For example, when you are late for a meeting or a schedule is not going according to plan and it can't be completed in time, the ego's dominance will look outside of itself for a justification of some kind, i.e., blaming it on another, or a situation like heavy traffic, or the bus was late. All of these events and happenings are time related and help to create the fear factor that stresses mind and body. Please note that the ego will harm and even kill another in order to keep itself alive. Revenge is one example that motivates the individual or the collective to take such action. Fear is the underlying energy behind wars. Every war is an ego war, no matter how else it is being justified. Wars continue to destroy the world, which is exactly what the ego wants: separate the people by controlling through fear. The perfect ego strategy. Yes, the ego's fear has a vested interest in keeping your logic locked into the physical time zones of past or future, when in reality they don't exist. There is only the now, the moment. Over many centuries, the aspect of past and future have become a dominating force in human behavioral patterns globally. So much so that many are lost in time, for minutes, days, weeks, months, or even years at a time. Now that must be equivalent of being lost in space, floating around without the true grounding of being present. All of the achieving and doing that humans follow are time-orientated and have a definite effect upon our relationship to one another. For example, as the old saying goes, time is money. But how true is that? And in accordance to what? This is where the ego plays its main cards, by keeping you locked into fear of past events and the fear of future happenings. For example, a negative memory of an experience can create a fear that prevents you from stepping into a similar situation again, in the belief that it will be negative as it was before. But is that true? This is why the ego wants to keep your consciousness locked into the past or future, in order to have greater control over how you feel and view the world. Without the fear factor, it would find it difficult to control your mind and emotions. Why does the ego's fear seem so real? Firstly, fear has had thousands of years and many lifetimes to condition your mind and emotions to be fearful. This means that to a certain degree, our actions and behavior patterns manifest themselves from the unconscious, meaning that we are very often consciously unaware of how we respond or act to certain situations. So much so that they have become habitual. Familiarity is probably the key word here, which is why we often have repetitive behavior patterns. The conditioning will continue until something moves or shifts in one's consciousness and awakens you to what is actually taking place in the now. Waking up. For me, I saw the illusion of fear when I realized that those familiarities were only real for as long as I believed in them. I saw that both were connected to the physical timeline and had conditioned me to become fearful. I began to understand that the past is but a reminder of what I had experienced, and the future is an open door to what I wish to create. I then took positive steps to eradicate ego's fear from my energy system, i.e., mind and body, which was the moment that changed my life. Some of the positive steps that I took to help eradicate ego's fear were to face each fear in the moment it came or appeared, to say no to the ego's fear by stepping into the space that it is trying to prevent me from entering or following, to remain positive in all that I do, to build on my trust factor, which will empower me, to remain present at all times. It's where the ego and fear cannot control me. Living from the heart. Where love is, fear is not. Heart sharing is expanded consciousness in action. Living from the heart is caring for nature, one's environment, and Mother Earth. Heart is soul, and soul is heart. It's your natural vibration of love, light, and joy. The consciousness that the heart holds is where the ego cannot be, because the intensity of its light strips the ego of its identity and removes it from the universal consciousness. Speaking and sharing in truth from the heart is the most natural way to live one's life. If not, then you are protecting something which holds a fear. Being fearless is the expanded consciousness of heart in action. Living from the heart is to love life and to share the light it holds. Living from the heart is being compassionate. Living from the heart is empathy. Living from the heart is a knowing one's faith a step beyond trust. Living from the heart promotes your well-being in body, mind, spirit, and soul. Don't let fear be the dominating force in your life. Seek meaningful ways to transform any fear you may be holding. The eternal journey that every human being is now following is to be true to their soul's calling, which is to see each other as brothers and sisters and to live from the heart in peace, love and joy. Thank you for watching and listening. Love and light, Ralph.